Welcome to Long Brothers Reviews, the show where sibling rivalry meets the cinema as two brothers rate and debate movies past, present, and coming soon. That's my brother Todd.
And that's my brother Mike, and today's film is Get Hard, starring Will Ferrell, Kevin Hart, Craig T. Nelson, and directed by, I'm going to pronounce it Etan, I don't know if that's correct or not, but Etan Cohen. Let's call him Etan.
Very good. This week's order was decided by a ruling from the United States Supreme Court. So Todd, you're up first.
Thank you kindly. Will Ferrell's made a career of being the arrogant, clueless guy who somehow manages to succeed despite his own ineptitude. And that's basically what we have here again. The difference is that you're definitely not going to see Get Hard on basic cable one day. This film is a hard R. And I actually felt sorry for some parents that were in our showing who somehow thought this would be a safe film to bring their preteen children to. There are parts of this film that are laugh-out-loud funny, but they're usually followed by jokes that just go way too far. And while, personally, I did like the film, you have to be warned, this is not a comedy for everybody. And if you go into this thinking you're going to see another version of Anchorman, you might come away from it more disgusted than amused.
I quote Ferris Bueller, you can never go too far. However, you can go on too long. And if he keeps this up, the next movie will reduce Will Ferrell to getting the kinds of reviews Adam Sandler has become used to. This movie just isn't funny. Most Will Ferrell movies go all out in not just being coarse, which is fine, but also in weirdness. That doesn't happen here. The real-world anchor that makes his movies work makes no appearance here. With a ridiculous premise and the kind of material that longtime collaborator Adam McKay would have shouted out of his office not 5 years ago, Will Ferrell is slipping. Save your money, don't go.
I think to call this a Will Ferrell picture is a bit of a misnomer. This is a Kevin Hart film.
That's right, which tells you a lot right there.
Yeah, and I have no problem with Kevin Hart. I like Kevin Hart.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's a very funny man. But this is not a Will Ferrell picture. Don't go into this thinking, oh, it's going to be, oh, why, this escalated quickly. This is none of that. This is stuff that, honestly, and I'm no proof, this stuff that made me think, wow, this is just a little bit much.
The fact that Will Ferrell needs Kevin Hart in the picture to sell tickets is not an indication of, oh, let's double up the star power. It's that Will Ferrell can't draw like he used to.
There's a scene with Kevin Hart, who, again, very funny, very talented man, where he's pretending to be a bunch of different people that maybe Will Ferrell would encounter in a prison yard. So he's being, the tough African-American. He's being a Hispanic person. He's being a homosexual. And after a while, you're just like, okay, let's go. Let's get on with it. This has just gone on too far. So it was almost like this, we're just going to let people get to know Kevin Hart and see what we can do. It's almost like this is a vehicle to make him a bit more mainstream.
I thought that there was a really cool idea in this movie, but it didn't pop up until the end. And there's a scene toward the end, this gives away nothing, by the way, where he is spending time glad-handing and having a big time with glad-handing, like that's what they would say, with this murderous street gang. And he's hanging out, and he's Mr. Cool, and he's doing this stereotypical thug thing, and it's hilarious. It's really funny. And I thought, what about a movie in the same way Elf was about this fish out of water thing? What about Will Ferrell as the only white guy, Mayo they called him in the movie, the only white guy in this black street gang in Crenshaw? And I thought, that's funny. And they proceeded to play it for 5 minutes, and that was the end. And that was the movie they should have made.
There's a scene, and again, this gives nothing away, but there's a scene that takes place in a bathroom stall between Will Ferrell and a character actor that I've seen 1,000 times, but his name escapes me at the moment. And it was a funny idea because there's a laugh-out-loud funny joke that leads up to this scene in the stall. But once the scene in the stall starts, it gets to the point where you just have to turn away. And it's Will Ferrell trying to learn to perform a certain sex act, basically, on another man. And it's just like, okay, it just went too far, and it was just a bit too over the top for me.
There comes a point when you do comedy when the shock overwhelms your ability to find the humor in it. And again, I don't think you can go too far. I just didn't think it was funny.
And it was just like, it was almost sad after a point to watch this scene play out.
Kevin Hart is saving every penny he possibly can. He is desperate for money, yet somehow he finds apparently thousands of dollars to hire a cast of supporting players and to buy props in order to make the man's mansion into a prison. Just stupid.
Iron bars, razor wire, guard tower spotlights that he has erected in the front yard. He turns the guy's tennis court into like a prison yard with kind of, MacGyverized weight. And like, where's he getting this money?
Something Lorne Michaels has said is things have to be believable at some fundamental level. Yeah. And even, Elf, if you, as Carson used to say, you buy the premise, you buy the bit.
Right.
And if you buy the premise that the elf is there, then all the silliness. But nobody is going to say, well, now I've spent thousands of dollars of my own money to make your house into a prison. No, that's why if you buy the premise, buy the bit thing works great at the end. If you buy the premise that this street gang has admitted Will Ferrell, every joke is on the table, and that never happens here.
But there were some where Will Ferrell is trying to explain to the Crenshaw Kings about the stock market, and he's explaining it at such a basic level that even me sitting there think, well, no, it's not that simple, Will. Even I know this.
Well, this is the thing about movies, and I talk to people watching this probably know I teach writing to grad students at Georgetown. Notice how I got that in. And one of the things that people are always concerned about is that they say, do I need to dumb it down? And I say, no, you don't have to dumb down anything. You have to explain it in simple terms that are still accurate. And screenwriters apparently this screenwriter didn't understand some basic things. And you don't have to, and I agree with you, it's not the biggest tragedy in the world, but you don't have to turn something into a juvenile, incorrect explanation to get it in there.
One high point for me in this film, if you're a fan of Community, this is a high point in the film. Alison Brie is in this film, and good Lord, is she hot in this film. It just has to be said. What really sets the tone for this film, you've seen Will Ferrell's ass in this thing twice before they're done rolling all the credits at the bottom. If you compare it to Will Ferrell's other work, then yeah, it's a disappointment. If there's one thing you can take away from this film, I beg of you, do not take your kids to this film thinking they're going to see Anchorman jokes for 100 minutes, because that's not what they're going to see.
Bottom line, it's 5 minutes of funny crammed into an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
That's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. Check us on Facebook. Check us on Twitter. Ask us about your favorite films. Look for our recipes. Always available if we click right down there.
So until next time, that's my brother Mike.
And that's my brother Todd saying, I'm Johnny Knoxville, and welcome to Jackass.